All right, good evening, everybody. It is Tuesday. It is 9 o'clock in the evening. It's time for the tropical update. Bottom line right now is that things are quiet out there. Our spot off the East Coast has fizzled. We'll take a look at that. We'll take a look at the outlook. I'll show you all the modeling. You know, we've had Arthur. When you look back at hurricane stats, May, about every other year, maybe every 1 or 2 years, we get a May named storm, and then we get about an average of one per year, one storm per year if you look at May and June. So to have Arthur here as the only named system, May and June, that's about statistically within normal. Almost all of these storms develop when we get into the heart of the hurricane season, which is August 15th through about October 15th. So it's not a surprise that we've started slow, although statistically we're right in there with what we'd expect in a normal season. This is where we're going to see early season development if we do, and we did with Arthur. Remember, it came across Central America. I say it came across, at this point it was not even a tropical storm, it was just an area of disturbed weather. What there was of it went into Mexico unnamed, curlicued, and then came off around Corpus Christi, and then right when it got over the water of the Gulf, it did fire up into a tropical storm, Arthur. But if you'll remember, even though the center went right over Houston of this tropical storm, the wind shear was so strong it had blown all the thunderstorm activity over into East Louisiana. So we had a breezy day. It was a beautiful breezy day, one of the most beautiful breezy tropical storm days you'll ever get in Houston. That was odd. Oh, and then, of course, the one that tried to form here yesterday has now fizzled, but right there in the yellow, where statistically, if we're going to get an early season system, we get it. So Hurricane Center, 0% chance that our little spot here develops into a tropical system. Couple of things. There's a lot of wind shear here. It's also wrapped in dust, as we looked at yesterday. Two things that fight against any type of tropical development. So that one has been taken off the board by the Hurricane Center. Just an update, sea surface temperature anomaly. We're a little bit above normal in the Atlantic on our side. In the Pacific, it's this area. This is the El Nino region. If we're going to be in an El Nino, this is where we get unusual warming, and that's exactly what we've got. Unusually warm water has built in the eastern equatorial. We're in an El Nino advisory. Why do we track this as far as hurricane season is concerned? Because we have noticed over the decades that when you get an El Nino, especially a strong one, quite often the result in the Atlantic is stronger mid and upper level wind shear. Those would be winds that would blow west to east across a developing or a developed tropical storm or hurricane. Why is that important? This can reduce storm count because when you get shear across a storm, it weakens it. So a healthy hurricane, if you will, vertically stacked in an unsheared environment. These are the big ones. But you get wind shear across the storm and it can tilt the whole thing over. That disrupts the circulation. That can weaken a strong system. That can make a moderately strong system go away in a matter of days or a day if the wind shear is strong enough, or it can keep systems from developing in the first place. So these are all things that can reduce storm count by the time you get to the end of the season. But as we know, it only takes one. I go back to 1983. Alicia hit Houston in 1983. It was the A storm. It was an August storm. And that was it was one of 4 named storms that season. And the only storm, I believe, to hit the U.S. that year. Only 4 storms that year, and one of them hit us. So, that's what Mother Nature thinks of our statistics. So again, looking out here at the satellite, this was the area we were looking at yesterday. Just unable to get going, 0% chance for development. As we kind of look around, you see these red blobs. So what are we looking at here? This is the enhanced infrared satellite, and we enhance it. So the satellite can tell, it's looking at temperature. And what we as meteorologists want to know is, where are the coldest cloud tops? Because that tells us where the highest convection is taking place. When you get storm tops, thunderstorm tops that bubble up, and you can see them off in the distance bubbling way up high. Well, when they get up to 50, 60,000 feet, that tells us that it's really tapping into a lot of energy. Those are storms that if they were to stay clustered over warm water, could produce low pressure and develop into a tropical system. Well, what we see big thunderstorms, but these developed over land in the warmth of the afternoon and then have moved offshore. So they're not developing over water, and they're weakening as we go into the evening. Same thing here, thunderstorms developed over the heat of the day over the Yucatan. They're moving over the open water. What you've got is a surface outflow boundary. That is not something that will develop of a tropical nature. Here you've got the monsoonal flow coming off the Pacific, desert Southwest, getting thunder showers. Today it's kind of shifted, so Colorado into western Kansas and now moving into Nebraska, getting in on some big thunderstorms. North Texas getting thunderstorms. Again, you can tell they're thunderstorms because the red indicates the cloud tops that are cold because they're being pushed way high in the atmosphere where temperatures are well below zero. But again, that tells we, the Mets, where the big thunderstorms are truly developing. So that's what we're seeing here. You see nothing that looks like development over the Gulf, the Caribbean, the open Atlantic, getting in. Hurricane Center's got no development for the next 7 days. We take it one day at a time no matter what here. And then real quickly, one of the big reasons why we usually have a slow start to hurricane season is that early in the season we can get a ton of dust coming off of Africa. You get thunderstorms out here, and outflow kicks up the dust, and the trade winds carry it out over the open Atlantic. And that's exactly what's been happening, and that's what's happening. This is the dust forecast through Saturday, with another blob having already come off, and now it's all reaching all the way to the Caribbean. So very unlikely anything would develop in here. There's another blob being fired up here over Africa that'll come off. I can push this further out in time. Dust comes across the Bahamas, spreads out, thins a little bit, but does make it all the way into the Western Gulf by Wednesday. There's the next blob coming off. So all signs point to things staying quiet for at least the next week, and that's got a lot to do with why the Hurricane Center's got no development for the next 7 days. And we always look at this modeling. This is the year on the GFS. I'm looking for low pressure isobars that are 10 millibars or less. So 1,010 millibars or less is what I've got here. I'm not measuring anything higher than that. That pressure is not going to be tropical. And what we'd be looking for is something that looks like this, developing over the development region here that we track for the Atlantic Basin. Do we see anything like that as we head into Wednesday, Thursday? This is the end of the week, going into the weekend, 4th of July, Sunday, Monday? No. So we can go through the 4th of July weekend without having to worry about a developing tropical system. I do want you to get an update every day, but the modeling and the dust and other factors all suggest nothing's going to get going here. But you know, that spot off the Carolinas kind of popped out of nowhere. That's why I say, well, we always take it one day at a time. You never know when something's going to pop off the coast and try to develop on us. So through Monday, things look quiet. We'll take the modeling out as far as I'm willing to go, which is 9-10 days, going to Thursday, so 9 days out. Nothing developing in where we would be having our ears perk up. So that's where we stand. We're quiet as a mouse, typical for this time of the year. Enjoy the 4th weekend. Do get an update somewhere once a day in case something decides to pop up off the coast here. You never know. And we are live on KHOU 11 News at 10 o'clock with all the headlines and weather and sports and World Cup update coming up at 10 o'clock. So we'll see you then for our next live update.